I've got a dead mother, and I miss her oh so much.
Hello, my name is Marisa Bruneau, and this is DMDC, Dead Moms Discussion Club. It is not a fun club to be in. I'm sorry that you're here, and I'm sorry that you have suffered the loss of your mother. It is a huge, huge loss, and it leaves a big hole in your life. And as you journey forward, there are challenges, and it's not a fun place to be. So I would like to tell you that you're not alone. I had this experience in my mid-20s, losing my mom, and it would have been great to have a community of people with a shared experience, and that's why I've created this. So I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to fill this need in the world, and I want to just provide as much support and be able to have a platform for those who are willing to share their experiences on here. And it's a safe place for them to come and share those stories. And we can talk about what life is like without our moms and journey forward together as a community. I have been in this club for nearly 22 years, and in some ways it does get a little bit easier, but in other ways there are things that just don't go away. It's just a difficult place to be. So today's guest is Thea Arthurson, and up until recently I actually didn't know her last name. I only knew her as Cree Thea. That's her social media handle. Cree Thea, there's 2 dots in between the Cree and the Thea. So she can be found on Facebook. She can be found on Instagram as well as TikTok. She's originally from Norway House Cree Nation, which is located on Treaty 5 territory. And she's now living in the Okanagan in BC. So if you see her on social media and she has pictures outside, there's beautiful mountains behind her and everything. She's a mom of 2 boys, and she's known for making bannock and sharing bannock recipes. And she prepares the recipes live for her followers on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So she's quite the gal, and I'm grateful to know her, and I'm grateful that she agreed to be on the DMDC show today. And thank you for joining us. And unfortunately, with the Zoom platform, the beginning introductions were not successful. So we just dive right into the discussion about her sharing her story and talking about losing our moms. So, and be a place that's safe for us to share stories and not feel alone. Really, that's the most important thing, because that's how I felt. I just felt so alone. So
the fact that no one can ever fill that void, right? Because the mother's place is irreplaceable. And that really just stuck with me, and that really resonates with me and it really makes me feel better about feeling that way. Especially hearing from someone like you who's been on this journey for, you said 22 years now, like that never goes away. And it really reaffirms to me that it's okay to feel that way, because sometimes like there's other women like aunts, friends and stuff who lean into you when you lose a mother and like say, oh, I'm here for you, but like you think like, well, no one's ever going to replace her, like, so that's like, it's really reaffirming to me to hear that, to know it's okay to feel that way, because sometimes I just felt bad about it. Yeah,
that it had been so long for me, and it's still something that it still is real, and it hurts. It's still painful, and I still feel the loss like every day. So, but I feel like I think you said it had been about 3 years for you.
2019, so
4 years now. Okay. But I felt even within a year, there was people in my life who were quite close with me, but they were uncomfortable with the fact that it's such a big loss. And I think they were just hoping that I would be over it. Seeing how, perspective is, yeah, if like just back to the beginning, that's really, you only understand if you've been through it. And yeah,
no, I
just
understand. No, I
yeah,
get
it all
that.
comes back to the same thing. Like, it's just nobody really gets it unless you've been through it. And that's all I can say over and over again.
Yes,
Unless you've been
for
through it, you
sure.
don't understand. And Yeah. So, uh, yeah, we're here to hear your story. So I would love for you to tell me about your mom, like her, um, when was she born and what her name was
Okay.
and what she was like and all of
Yes.
that.
So my mom was named Bonnie Lou. Um, she was born in 1967 in Norway House, Manitoba, or maybe she was born in Thompson. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure actually, but that's in northern Manitoba, about 9 hours, 8 hours or 9 hours north of Winnipeg. So pretty far up there. Norway House and Thompson, living in those two places. She graduated high school and then she had my eldest brother in 1985 with her partner at the time. And then they broke up and then she met my dad and he took on her and my brother as a family. And they had my other brother in 1985 and then no, 87 and then they had me in 1989 and then they got married in I think 1991 and then they had my last brother in 1994. So we were a family of six, four children, and she was starting to go back to school after me because they didn't have another child. They tried to have us all back to back, and they had that gap between me and my youngest brother. So she tried going back to school for nursing, I believe, at the University of Winnipeg. Um, while me and my older brothers were all in school and my dad was working. So my dad took time off work to stay home with my youngest brother. And he would drive him on a bike to the university to go nurse on my mom because he was still nursing while she was in class. So I just like that story of her going to class anyways with four kids at home, like having to run out during a break and go nurse a baby like on the side of the street. Like sacrifices like that she didn't even think about. She just did it. And that was right at the start of our lives. So we ended up moving to Norway House when I was about 8 years old. I think that was in 1997. Because that's where my family is from. Um, my mom's family. And we got a house there across the road from my grandmother's, my mom's mother. And we lived there. I lived there till I turned 19. And then my mom moved out of there to move to this city. Her and my dad ended up splitting up when I was about 20. So they split up and she moved to this city to live with my oldest brother. He had an apartment and she became a cat lady. So she never liked cats. So I was like, oh, look at you evolving your love to bring in animals you didn't even like before. Like, and that's what I mean. That lady had a heart for everybody and everything. And I just thought that was so funny because she always used to tell me how she didn't like cats. She ended up getting
Oh,
two with my brother. So
oh,
they had two cats.
okay.
So she got a girl cat and she didn't know it was a girl cat. She thought it might be a boy cat. So she named him Doug. Right. And then she found out it was a girl cat when she went to get him neutered and he had to get spayed instead. So she was like, well, she's named Doug and she likes it. So I just thought that was so funny.
Oh, goodness.
I got pregnant in 2015 and that would be my mom's second grandchild. My youngest brother actually gave her first grandchild, a granddaughter, which she was absolutely like over the moon about. She was the
Oh,
best mom, a mom to everybody. And then even a better grandmother, right?
mm,
So, that saying like how they raise us so they can be mean, but they don't have to raise their grandchildren so they can just spoil them. That was her, right? So,
oh. Hmm.
yeah, I had my son in 2015 and I had her there with me. I was like, Mom, you don't have to come for me. You have to come for the partner, like, because you need to support him through this labor. And she did come support me, and it was so beautiful to have her there. Um, and that was my first son, and she was a great grandmother, like a not great grandmother, beautiful grandmother to him.
Mm.
And so he was just a little guy when she passed away. He was about 4 years old. But he remembers a lot of things about her. And one thing he remembers is walking to the corner store with her and buying a little double bubble gum. And he always remembers that. So whenever we see those when we're out, he'll be like, can we get those Nanny Bonnie gums? That's what he called
Oh.
her, Nanny Bonnie.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, he he remembers like what they did together, not so much like who she was, like her voice or her face or anything. He just says he remembers like what they did. And like that's something she always made um happen when she was with her grandchildren, was she always took them for a walk. Like she would make sure they did something together, like, made those memories like that, because like she understood like that's what would be the lasting memory, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, she had her own like issues with substances, and she carried a lot of trauma in her life. And I think she carried a lot for others as well. She was like always the helper, always helping others rather than helping herself. And a lot of people did pour love back into her, but I think she needed to pour more love into herself the way she poured into others.
Mm.
So that's like what I gather. So in 2018, towards the end, I got pregnant with my second child. Oh, 2018, I moved to BC, and then me and my family moved here while we left our family in Winnipeg, right? And so that was a big move. But then I got pregnant at the end of 2018. So one of the ways we told her was my son decorated a shirt that said Big Bro, and he took a picture with the pregnancy test, and like we sent that to my mom as a Christmas card. And all of a sudden she FaceTimed me crying, and I forgot I did that, because baby brain at the start. So I was like, oh my God, mom, did somebody die? And then she was like, no, you're pregnant. And I was like, oh my God, am I? Oh my God, I am. Like, it's so funny. And she was just crying so hard. She was so happy that one thing she did instantly was go out and buy a pink blanket, because she was like, you're gonna have a girl. Like, I know it. You're having a girl. So she went and bought this for my son before she even knew what he was. And I just laughed at her. I was like, Mom, you don't even know. So I just thought that was the funniest thing. And she put it away because I was living in BC, right? So she
Mm.
put it away. So in March, I was about 20 weeks pregnant. So I came to Manitoba with my son to have a birthday. I turned 30 years old. And my mom gave me a birthday. So I thought that was so cool. She got me a little Cookie Monster cake from Safeway. And I seen her, and it was nice to see her. And then we were also having a gender reveal. But something I noticed when I first seen my mom was like how different she looked. Like she looked a little yellow. And I was like, what's
Oh.
going on here? Like, you don't look
Mm.
healthy. You look like you lost a lot of weight. So I went to my auntie's to visit, and I was like, what's going on with mom? Like with my younger brother. I was like, something's going on here. So they all realized at the same time that I did, I guess, that she was sick. And something we had to do at the time, because we weren't sure how she would react if we asked her to go to the hospital to get some care, was we had to sign some forms that would force her to get care if she refused, because she just didn't look 100%, like she looked really ill.
Mhm.
So we had my what's it called, gender reveal, right? And we found out it was a boy, and I just told her, I was like, I told you it was a boy. So we had this party, and those are the last pictures I got with my mom. I might even have them in here. I have an album my auntie gave me when my mom passed away. So she took pictures probably of that night, of that day.
Mm.
And it was so funny. Or maybe she didn't. I thought she did.
Was the blanket in the pictures?
Huh?
Did she have the blanket with her?
No, no. But I was like, I told you it was a boy. I totally forgot about the blanket. So, anyways, my auntie set up like a penis party, because that's what she's known for, is making penis parties for everybody. And I was like, oh, how fitting. I'm having a boy, now we're having a penis party. We had that. It was so funny. And that was like some of the best last memories I had. And then after that, I told my mom, like after the party and everything, I was like, you got to go to the doctor. Like, I think you really need to go. Like, we'll take you, or you can like go there how you want. But I really think you have to go in. So she
Mm.
did go into the hospital, and she was admitted. And this was the start of like the end of her life. So
Mm.
I had to come back to Manitoba I mean, to BC, and luckily she was able to bring me to the airport to say goodbye to me. And that would be my last time seeing her as like a physical, like in her physical being and being aware and stuff, because
Right.
after this it just started declining. Um, so I'm gonna take a shot. I came back to BC, and the rest of my pregnancy was okay. I did get diagnosed with diabetes type 1, and that's what happened the first time. I had gestational diabetes type 2, I think, the first time. So I was expecting that. So, yeah, and in the meantime, my mom was in and out of hospital. And she was on a lot of medication because she also had like rheumatoid arthritis and other issues, right? So she was on medication in and out of hospital. And during one of her trips in, they gave her so much medication that she ended up developing something called Steven Johnson syndrome. And it is like a chemical reaction in your body that burns you from like the inside out. So then you end up with like blisters all over your body. Like I think it's like third-degree burns or something. So she had a real painful end to her life. And she couldn't recover from that. So around 34 weeks is when I had to fly back to Winnipeg. I got the phone call to fly back, and I was there for 10 days. And the whole time, like, she was in the hospital, she was in the surgical ICU, because she was in such bad condition.
Oh.
And she had to be in one of those rooms where you have to wear a gown and everything to go in. So that was my first time seeing her, was when she was all hooked up to machines. Um, and it was so hard. But I I knew I was there for a reason, and I knew it was to help her on her journey. Um, so I did my best to be strong and also be like mindful to myself, because I was pregnant. I was 34 weeks pregnant, right? And I didn't want to have my baby in Winnipeg away from my family and under those conditions. So I understood like I had to like balance my grief at the time with like everything I was going through. So I was there for about 10 days, and in that time I had a lot of family surrounding me, which was beautiful. Um, we had to make like different decisions. Like I knew she wouldn't want to come back from that, like if they tried everything they could. Like I knew she wouldn't want to come back to that, because she would then be like set up for she would have to have dialysis and everything, and she'd like be attached to machines a lot, and I knew she wouldn't like that. And plus with what the SJS, the Steven Johnson syndrome, did to her, like she had like a lot of disfigurements, I guess, from all of the blisters and stuff. And I knew she'd be like very like, not that she was like very meticulous with how she looked, but like she did like to be a pretty lady, and she was, you know. So I knew she wouldn't want to like be back in a world hooked to machines and looking like that. So, and once upon a time, before any of this ever came to mind, we would talk about like her getting cremated if she ever passed away, and we would joke about like splitting her up, and I'd take her arm and my other brother would take her leg and stuff. Like we'd make jokes about that stuff. So I was like, I know we were joking at the time, but like she did want to get cremated and she didn't want to
Right.
get like brought back. So
Hmm.
so we made the decision not to. And it was about maybe day 7 or 8, I can't remember, when we went for her meeting with the doctors in the morning, and that's when they said like now she just has to be on like palliative care. There's nothing else they could do. Like this is the end, and we're just gonna wait for her to make her journey, right? So that was like something really hard to go through, and everyone was concerned for me, which understandably so. And I was like, you guys just need to relax, because at the same time that people were concerned, people were also like um mistreating or disrespecting, I guess, wishes and orders that we did have. So I was like, you guys can't like do both. Like you can't care about me and also mistreat or disrespect us, you know, and our wishes with our mothers. So I was just going through a lot at that time. And then yeah, on on our last night there, we had a room full of people for for a while. And then I got to say goodbye to her with my family, like just my brothers and my dad, even though they were separated. So like just that last the family we grew up with, like to say our goodbyes, you know? and that was really nice to have. Um, and yeah, and then the end of the night was just me and my nan and my cousin there, and then my cousin left, and it was just me and my nan, my mom's mom.
Mhm.
And that was just really beautiful to have because like it was like the three generations kind of closing a book, you know? So it was kind of healing to have that. Then the next morning was when I was leaving. I think I was leaving at like 10 a.m. So I had to go to the airport. So I had to say
Mm.
goodbye to my mom. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to do was to say goodbye to her physical body. Like knowing that would be the last time I'd ever see her hair, her face, like hold her hands, because like there's like nothing like feeling your mom's hands in your hands, right? Like it just felt perfect. Like she always used to hold my hand and like make me feel better. So holding hands and like cuddling was what we always used to do. So I was like, man,
Mm.
I'm never gonna see you again. Like, and this is really hard, but I really need you to make your journey because I don't want you here and in pain. Like, you gotta go. Like, it's okay. We're gonna be okay. I know you're gonna be there watching over us. Like, her grandchildren were in different parts of Manitoba and BC and stuff. So I was like, this is the only way you can be with all of us at the same time is if you make your journey. I'm like, so like you gotta go now. Like, do it, please. So and then I left and I went to the airport. And it was hard because the last time I was there was when she got to say goodbye to me. Um, So that was very hard. I was crying the whole way through security, and it was so funny because all they had was like this rough paper towel, and one of the people like just ripped off a long piece, and they're like, "I'm so sorry, but that's all we got." And
You're like,
I was like really just scraping my face with this cardboard paper towel. Didn't even care because my eyes were swollen anyways. Like it was so funny. I just laughed. I was like, "This is so ridiculous." So that was just like I kept finding humor in like the pain, right?
mm. Hmm.
Made the trip over and when I landed and my phone finally turned on and connected to a network, I had a bunch of missed calls, so I knew, holy moly, she's gone.
Yeah.
Um my partner called me and I answered his call first. He's like, "Hey, we're just on our way. We're just coming through Kelowna, like we're backed up. So we won't be there right away, but we'll be there in like 15 minutes." I'm like, "Okay." And I was like, I'll get my bags and it'll be fine. And then next thing you know, my brothers called me and I'm like, I can call you right back. Just let me gather my bags so I can go outside and call you back. So I got my bags and then I went outside. That took maybe 5 minutes. It was really fast. And I just stood outside the doors against a brick wall, like kind of propped up against my bag. And I called them back. And my brother's like, yeah, she's gone. Like, she's gone. She was gone when you were in the sky. That's when she left. Like, I was here with her. I was holding her hand. And she left. I was like, holy shit. Like, my mom's gone. Like,
Mm.
so I'm in the beside this airport just crying and I didn't know what to do. So I just like, because this is the moment when you hear your mom has passed, like she's not here anymore. There's no more mom for you. Like it's over.
Mm.
So I just grabbed my bag and started walking and I didn't even know what I was doing because all I had was tears in my eyes. I couldn't even see where I was going. I had a big belly in front of me. Like this baby's kicking me, like telling me it's okay, I think, like and yeah, I'm just like crying and walking, and all of a sudden, this my truck pulls up in front of me, and my partner gets out and just wraps me in a big bear hug, and I collapse, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe it, like it's over, like she's gone. Um, and yeah, it was really hard. I got to hold my son. I didn't tell him like that moment because I wanted to wait till I can tell him myself when I felt better.
Yeah.
So we drove to the nearest McDonald's and I got out and I gave him a big hug and he said he missed me and stuff and told him I loved him and just getting into his arms felt like he kind of put me back together a little bit, and it was so funny how the littlest hug can just fix you. So I thought that was so nice. We lived in Penticton. We were renting a house, so um my partner and my son brought my dog out. No, they left the dog with me. They came out to visit grandma and they left me at home because I just needed time alone to cry. Um, I've never cried a cry like I did that day in my entire life. Like, I did not know I could cry like that. Like, it felt like it wasn't even me. It felt like I was having an outer body experience because I just didn't know the noises like I could make from the pain I had in my heart. Like, it was insane to me. And what was even more insane was that my little baby was here with me hearing it and like wondering what he was thinking, you know? Like, I wonder if he was feeling that pain or if he was hearing it and being like, whoa, 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 what is this lady doing out there? Like, I
Oh.
don't know what she's doing, but this is crazy. Because at the same time, I started having contractions. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, that is enough, sir. Don't be disrespectful. You stay in there, like, already going through enough. So I started just drinking water and I just ended up being dehydrated. I drank a lot of water and I was okay. But after that, I had an appointment that I had to leave. I had to skip an appointment and an ultrasound to go help my mom on her journey. So I had it scheduled for me as soon as I came back. Um, and I went to that and they found out I had placenta previa. It's when your placenta is covering your cervix, so you can't have a baby, right? It's very dangerous for both of you because you could bleed out. So I was like, wow, I'm just walking around going through a traumatic event with placenta previa, acting like it's no big deal. And then I was put on like bed rest pretty much, like only walking a little bit each day if I needed to. And I started having fetal non-stress tests or whatever they're called, where they hook you up to machines and everything. I went to my first one the day I got back, or 2 days after I got back, and my nurse was like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" And I was like, "Well, my mom passed away." And she's like, "Oh." And I was like, "Yeah." And then like I just felt like I didn't have any emotion, and then she left the room, and then I just started bawling. And I found like maybe that's like how I was trying to like deal with that pain, was trying to let it out, but not being able to like do it because I was just trying to hold it so much in to like protect the baby and stuff. So I feel like losing my mom at that time was really hard because I had so much happening in my own body that I had to try and be strong for. So I had my baby at 38 weeks via C-section. And my mom told me, like, when I left the airport, when she got to send me off, that she would be there to help me with my baby, right? And then she passed away. So I was like, oh man, like you were supposed to be here. So I was kind of sad. Um, and they gave me a moment, like they took me away from my partner to get me set up on the ER bed. And there was a moment where they're like, okay, are you ready? And I said, no, I need a moment. And then they're like, okay, are you okay? And then I was just like, well, I lost my mom like 4 weeks ago. I said she was supposed to be here to help me, and I'm kind of just sad. So I just need a moment to like kind of let like process that so I can lay down and get this show on the road. And all of a sudden, this nurse who was like my nurse helping me through the surgery came in. Like I had my hands like this, like trying to like just um help regulate myself. And she put her hands over mine, and like her hands felt like my mom's hands. And I was like, that was my sign. I was like, my mom is here. The nurse said, I can't take away the pain of what you're going through, but I can help you through your surgery right now. And I can be here for you through that. And I was like, okay. Like, and that was her, like, in a sense, me, like, my mom channeling through her, maybe because her hands felt as soft as my mom's. The way she held my hand was how my mom would hold my hands. And I was just like, damn, like you made it. Like it was such a beautiful experience. After that, I felt okay. Like it didn't matter if like they pulled my whole body apart and they're like, oh no, we forget how to put you together. I'd be like, you know what, it's fine. Like I'm sure you'll figure it out because I know my mom's here. I had my baby and it was very hard but good experience because I got her through so much of my first son's childhood, babyhood, and everything, infancy. And this time I was doing it on my own and I had to figure out everything on my own. So there was every day I just wanted to call her and be like, what the heck am I doing? I need your help. And I just couldn't. So I had to like you almost have to learn how to be your own person after having, someone guide you the whole way. And it was just so crazy to me. Like, I don't know how to be a person. I need my mom, like um but I was able to do it. One of the harder things I found was wanting to share the news of, oh, the baby did this, or oh, this happened, and then not having her there to share it with, because I know she would just like eat it up. And the second hardest thing I found was helping my 4-year-old grieve while I was grieving, like fresh grieving and healing from a labor and everything. Like that was hard because he didn't understand, and the way he would ask questions like was just so harsh for the condition I was in. Like, is she dead? Is she bones? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, this is so hard to do right now. Like, no, like, we cremated her. She wanted that. Cremation is this. Oh, you burned her a lot. I'm like, no. And it was just like, I'm trying to like grieve and help my child through it. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. So I found a book. It's What Happens When You Die, or When We Die. And I forget the author. I should have pulled the book up with me. But that was a really beautiful book for children to understand death and dying. And that's what also helped me personally. I was like, oh, look, this children's book is just helping me process it too.
That does
Um,
make sense, though. I can see how that would be. Yeah, I mean, we're all
yeah,
human. Some of us are just younger, but just the
yeah,
concept is there. And it sounds like it's a beautiful little book too.
it
So,
is. It's so good. And then what happened? So about not long after, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety, and which we knew it would probably happen because of the loss of my mother, but as well as like the big shift with my hormones, with the diabetes and the pregnancy being a C-section and everything. So kind of expecting it, and it happened. And in about August, at the end of August, I had my first flare up in my neck, but I didn't know it was a flare up. I thought it was like some sort of sprain, or I pulled something because I was breastfeeding at nighttime. Maybe I wasn't sitting right. Like, so that happened. And then after that, like for 3 days at a time and a joint every now and then, I'd get sore. And I thought, okay, it's depression pains. Like that has to be some sort of depression pains. So I go to my doctor in September and tell her about it. And we're like talking about trying to diagnose what's going on here. We up my antidepressants, and in October I'm still having these pains. So she does some blood, and I tell her, oh yeah, my mom had arthritis. And then by November I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So all of that happened in that year. And then at the same time, I was like, man, my mom would know what to do right now. I can't even ask her about her disease and what happened because I didn't know I was going to get this. And I like, she never wanted to talk about it, her disease and stuff. And so like I never really thought about it at the time, right? So it was pretty hard to go through and um that whole year, but ever since then, I've been on this healing journey. Some One of the books that really helps me is actually Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, just because of the way like she explains her motherhood with her indigeneity, but as a science aspect as well. But just the journey of her motherhood from like raising her daughters and trying to like do everything right. Like I know like I kind of read it like how my mom would read it to me and stuff, or like taking things um music wise. I don't like, of course there's a song called like Dancing in the Sky, right? That's a popular
oh,
song. That's one of my favorites. And another song was something my son used to sing to her all the time, and that's Lay You Down by Conway Twitty, because that's an old timer song. And he used to love that. Well, he still loves that song, but he used to sing it to her because she would just like listen to him and he'd
mm.
be like singing. And so I'd listen to that song just to think about it and think about her and everything. But yeah. Um, another thing. Well, I don't really watch any movies or shows. Like I have to make sure like their moms don't die. Because as soon as that happens, I'm like, no, I can't watch this show. I'm too
Yeah.
too too sore still. Like I don't know if
Mm.
that ever goes away, but I try to watch shows and if the mom dies, I'm like, nope. So what I have my partner do is to check the movie, make sure does the mother figure pass away? Like if she does, don't make me watch it. And if she doesn't, like let me know and we'll watch it. So just to keep safe here. But yeah, like I just a lot of the ways I found healing was by picking up baking again and stuff. And that's kind of what
Mm.
took me to TikTok and like sharing recipes. Because she was always a good cook. Like she always made the best food. And she had her own bannock recipe. And I could never create her bannock recipe the way that she did. And it used to tick me off so bad. Like, Mom, I don't know what the heck you're adding to your bannock, but mine never turns out like yours. And like I said, I had my son in 2015, so I was like, I need to make this kid some bannock. Like he needs to know what bannock is because I grew up with it, so he needs it too. Like he needs a mom that can make him it. So I ended up making my own recipe by gathering like recipe testing and making my own. And I told her that I was like, you know what? I love your secret family recipe, but I can't make it. So I'm like, I gotta make my own secret family recipe from now on. Um, and that's what my bannock recipe turned into was sharing it on TikTok. So she passed away before TikTok and me ever became acquainted with one another. But I'm just like, I can't believe I get to go visit her in the spirit world and be like, she'd be like, oh, so what were you doing while I was gone? Like, Mom, I was slapping bannock. I'll explain it all. Like, I got famous for slapping bannock. Like, you would never believe that, but it's true. Like some people call me the bannock slapper, the bannock lady. Like, isn't that so funny? Like she would just think it was hilarious, I think. Like that's what I became known for. So yeah, that's kind of from 2019 to how I've healed through it a bit and to now. Also one more thing was um, when she passed away, right, she never got to hold my youngest son in her arms. So my aunt took some of her old clothes, like her old denim, and made it into a blanket and sent it to me so that when I had my new baby, he still got to be held by his nanny. So it was a very beautiful symbol. And he keeps it close. This is his baby nanny Bonnie blanket, he calls it. And then when I went to Manitoba in March, my aunt ended up clearing out my mom's bins for her from my brother's storage room in the apartment, I guess. And she put like stuff together for us and she found this. And then she was like, do you recognize that? And I just bursted out laughing. I was like, that was Sawyer's blanket. And I brought it home for him. And I was like, your nanny picked this out for you before we even knew what you were. You were probably this big. And he's like, that's my nanny Bonnie blanket. And he loves it. So that's his favorite blanket, and that's his other blanket, and that's how he's connected to my mom, even though he never got to see her.
Aw, that's
Yeah,
so lovely.
yeah, that's how our story goes.
Do you do you feel like she sends you messages or
I think she comes to me in bird form just because I've had like hummingbirds come up to me. Like I was in my smoke spot one day and all of a sudden this hummingbird that had no business coming in the carport because even my dog was right there, came right up, looked at me, came right in and stared right at my face and then like did a little thing and then it ran away. Like no, flew away. It didn't run away. Like it didn't get on its little legs and start running. But I was like, oh, I feel like that was my mom, you know? One time
Mhm.
I was messaging my cousin who was going through a really bad breakup out of nowhere, and I was talking to her, and we were actually I think we were video calling, and I was telling her I'm about to smudge, like I'll smudge for you, it'll be okay. And then all of a sudden, no, out of nowhere, I'm in my kitchen. This bird stops on the windowsill and is like flapping, and then it took off. And I was like, that never happened to me before living here. Like this bird
Wow.
just stopped there. I was like, that was my mom. was like, that's my mom telling us it's gonna be okay. Like, so she's a bird, I think.
I love the part of the story, like how you were telling you were in the airplane, and I wonder if that has to do with the birds a little bit too, because you were in the air and
Oh
she,
my gosh,
right?
I didn't even connect
Yeah, you're in
that.
a big metal bird, but
Yes, that is so pretty. Oh, that is
yeah.
so that I didn't even connect that. But you know, that's what happens when you tell your stories, other people hear it and you know they can do that. That's so kind. That was a good connection. I love that. That's
I think
awesome.
there's something beautiful that you were not touching the ground
Yeah.
when her spirit was released from her body,
Yeah.
and then you were in the air and she was in the air at the same time. I think that's so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Um,
A special kind
yeah.
of connection for a
Hmm.
goodbye.
Not many people
Mhm.
can say that they were, in the air in an airplane,
Yeah.
you
The
know.
closest to her when she was closest to creator.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for your time, and I appreciate it. And
For sure. Thank
I'm
you.
hoping that people will take your story, and it'll help them in their journey, feel that comfort and the shared experience.
Worst pain of your life, you want to know that there's someone out there who kind of understands what you're going through, right? And it's a
Yeah.
comfort, even though it's a comfort in the most horrible kind of way, it's still a comfort. Like,
Hmm.
it's still nice to know we have someone who understands or can connect to us.
Right. Just not being
Mhm.
alone, really. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I said, like, it really reaffirmed me for you to say, like, no one will ever take your mom's place. Like, that's your
Mhm.
mom. I'm like, yes, that feeling never goes away. That's good. I love to hear it. Like,
Yeah, it's true. It is true. I'm just gonna wrap this up, and then
all
that
right.
way
Thank you
I
so
can,
much.
yeah, thank you. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
I
And
will. No, this is very cathartic. So I'm sure I'll have a beautiful day.
I will think when I see the next few birds, I'll be
Yeah.
thinking of you and your mom
Oh,
too. And yeah,
thank you.
so all right.
Yeah.
Again, thanks again, and I
Bye.
appreciate
Have
you.
a
All
beautiful
right.
day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining this episode of DMDC. Next episode is Leslie Dreyer, and she is a friend of mine from Las Vegas, and she experienced the loss of her mother about 19 years ago, and she shares her story. And please join us and follow along. Please share this podcast with anyone that you know who's lost their mom. And thank you again for joining DMDC.